Rolling.
Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Catch the Sky podcast. This is our first episode post Super Bowl, and I'm here with Dick Francisco to check up on our Super Bowl bets and discuss a potential cover-up. Is that right, Dick?
Yeah, so let me just be clear. Exactly what I said in our last episode about sports betting. I hate sports betting. It ruins sports, first of all.
It's rigged, I told you.
It's all rigged, right? Speaking of cover-ups, but I feel like there's one in particular, a major cover-up. But before we get there, I guess we should readdress a few of our bets from our last episode for the listeners. So I think we all nailed it with the halftime show, right? Just about every song we called was played. How'd you feel about the halftime show, T?
Well, it was great. I definitely didn't pick the right first song. Not on the air. You know via our text conversation that the last text I sent before the halftime show was, I hope they play the next episode.
Yes, true. And that's how, but remember, that's how betting works, is like right up until the moment you can be changing your bets. And so arguably we won our bets.
Arguably I won that one, but that would have been the only one I won. Because Cincinnati got hosed.
I was hoping for a Tupac hologram that didn't happen.
We got Fitty instead.
We got Fitty instead, and a little Anderson .Paak in there in case nobody saw Anderson in there. So that's a shout out to Anderson .Paak, right? Half of Silk Sonic. Yeah, I felt kind of old, but like perfectly old watching that halftime show because I was so in it to win it. And 50 Cent, I just did not expect that. Still not sure I'm okay with it, but doesn't even matter. So either way, halftime was probably the best thing for us.
Right.
Because otherwise, I think we lost just about everything else. Because, and here's what I'll say to that. Gatorade first. I think we all had different colored Gatorade. What Safe had maybe red. I think I was going orange. You were going Cincy yellow, right?
Yeah.
Apparently, and I didn't even see it, but the internet say that it was blue Gatorade. Like, that's not rigged, as if they all knew the Rams were going to win. Like you said, it's rigged, right? So none of us got that right. And then it comes to the winners of the Super Bowl. And I don't know if I even want to call them winners. I know that I said, look, the Rams are going to win, but we all also agreed that it was all rigged. Our hearts were all with Cincy. And I think that the Rams won because of a conspiracy and a cover-up. And it was a bad call. There were bad calls throughout the whole game, but one in particular. And if you were watching the game and listening to the commentating, there was kind of a cover-up. And yeah, Chris Collinsworth, I'm pointing at you, buddy, because you could have said, what a bad call. You could have said, hey, that didn't, there wasn't actually grabbing of a jersey. Hey, that ball shouldn't be still the Rams' ball. And you didn't, Chris. You just said, that's what they called. Even Al Michaels called you out. And you pled the fifth, bro. So I'm arguing total cover-up by Chris Collinsworth of the worst call in the Super Bowl.
On that
that's because I didn't want the Rams to win.
There was a blatant false start that should have been called.
Yeah. I have watched a replay of this over and over and over.
Both tackles. It wasn't just one. It was both ends of the line were standing up before the ball was practically hiked.
Yeah, I keep rewatching it, and then earlier in the game, I think Collinsworth had made some comments about a little bit of contact, here and there, but he wouldn't call this one, and I've never been a Chris Collinsworth fan, so this only makes me hate him even more. Oddly enough, his son sounds exactly like him, so I now officially hate his son too.
That's funny.
It's super weird, actually, but nepotism is real. And so I kind of wanted to use this as our segue into this conversation about the topic of cover-ups. I mean, there's all kinds of types of cover-ups, right? And they all, I think, have something in common, that we're all trying to hide something with a cover-up. So,
well, Cincinnati Cincinnati got a call earlier in that game, or not a no call, that led to that 75-yard touchdown against Jalen Ramsey. The NFL after the game said that there was not enough of a face mask grab on that.
Right.
I was like, come on, that I watched that a bunch of times. I'm like, that's bullshit. I mean, he didn't decapitate the guy, but he definitely turned his head fucking around.
But so then that's where I start asking about like cover-ups, everything from refs to even Collinsworth. Just Collinsworth doesn't have any say over the game, but he's still commentating.
Didn't he play for the Bengals?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, that's the whole thing, though, right?
Yeah, so you'd think he'd be like a little bit pissed off.
But he kept his mouth shut. So then you wonder what's the cover up there. And is it because he won't get paid if he talks out, speaks up? And so, I always think about those consequences to the things that we're covering up and why we do cover things up. So, okay, sports cover-ups all the time. Government conspiracies. I know there's so many government cover-ups. We're going to get into my least favorite type of cover-up, and that's where this episode's going to go. But hit me with a good government cover-up.
So before we get into the real meat of this episode, I'd like to say that you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, or wherever you listen to podcasts by searching for the Catch the Sky podcast. On Twitter at CTS Terry or at I'm Dick Francisco. Or you can find Dick on Instagram at the Dick Francisco. And you can go ahead and leave us a comment there. Be sure to interact with us. Let us know if you want any money on the Super Bowl. And let us know if there's any cover-ups that you are interested in or think that we should discuss. There's plenty. I could go on about stuff like this forever. So you asked me government stuff.
Yeah, I know you're into it. What's your favorite government
Well, I told you I was
cover-up?
going to come up with a hot one to start.
You did. You promised me.
More than 100 million Americans received a polio vaccine contaminated with a potentially cancer-causing virus. This is via Business Insider, and these are confirmed via declassified documents from the U.S. government. So from 1954 to 61... the simian virus 40 somehow showed up in polio vaccines, according to the American Journal of Cancer. Researchers estimate 98 million people in the U.S. and even more worldwide received contaminated inoculations. Dang. So we're out here just pumping people full of cancer because it stops polio. And you're wondering why people are so...
But we're not supposed to talk about it. The government covered it up. And the government will justify that cover up, right? Because that's the whole thing. We cover things up to hide them for one reason or another. Their reason is because they don't want people to be afraid of vaccines because vaccines are supposed to save lives. I'm just saying that's some crazy shit.
Yeah, I understand how it works in one way, but it might not work in some other ways. There's shit that's going down.
And so, okay, so this is where I'm going to keep coming back to on this whole cover-up thing. I was reading this book by, oh my God, all of a sudden, why can't I remember his name? And either way, it's about basically telling the truth. And so, Sam Harris, sorry.
You can't handle the truth.
Of course I know Sam Harris, right? So Sam Harris he's like a philosopher. He's Making Sense podcast. Gets into some deep shit. And he wrote this book, and it's like a super short book, like way short. You could just like read it in 5 seconds. And it's called Lying, right? And the premise of this book is like there's so many reasons why we lie. So back to cover-ups, lying, right? Kind of all in the same vein.
Sneaky.
And I know, right? And he makes this compelling case for, is it ever justifiable to lie? And while we could say, well, yes, not to hurt people, or yes, under great circumstances, you had to lie to save a child's life or your dog's life or something like that. But like at the very basis of it, this concept of lying, in general, it's always better to just be upfront and honest. And that's that transparency thing, right? And so because think about the damage done then when we know that the government is willing to lie about something, and they may have done it as a cover-up because they thought it was in the best interest of the public to do it at that time about polio vaccines or not tell people once someone found out, because surely somebody knew well before it got said out loud. And they said, well, because we don't want people to be afraid because we want to make sure that people keep getting vaccinated. But at the end of the day, all you've done is built more and more distrust, right? Because we didn't say something up front. So I think we've all been in those circumstances or situations where we've done a cover-up, and the cover-up in the end to dig out of that hole, right, becomes worse and worse the longer and longer it goes on.
Yeah,
so,
but you
right?
could get paid $10 million because you were a lab rat for...
Great. Give me those reparations. I'd much rather have just not had to distrust the government, distrust the government, and just had them be honest with me and not had a class action lawsuit. Or I could still have one of those and still had them not lie to me. So this comes to a unique, maybe not so unique, my least favorite type of cover-up that we've prefaced before. Because I think that, we can blame the government for all of their cover-ups. We can blame sports. We can blame the medical community. We can blame the media for all kinds of different cover-ups. But there is one cover-up in particular that I would say primarily women, but men too these days, have complete control over whether they're going to continue to be a part of their own cover-up. And that is wearing makeup, T. It's a very contentious topic. It might not seem like one, but I have caught some shit over this topic. So do you wear makeup, T?
No.
Have you ever worn makeup?
I think maybe somebody might have applied makeup to me once or twice.
You didn't go through one of those phases, though, like a goth phase where you wore makeup?
No, I definitely didn't get in on the eyeliner when all of my favorite bands did.
Oh, man. So makeup is just one of those things that, it's a personal choice to wear it. It's easily and obviously covering something up. And I hate it for so many reasons. But before we get into that, maybe we should talk about the history of it a little bit and fill in for Safe. T, where did makeup kind of in its origins of being a cosmetic get its start?
Well, for anybody that has seen, I believe it's the 1999 classic, The Mummy. You're familiar with Anaxinamun's very elaborate, let's say, attire. She's just completely covered in makeup, right?
Yeah.
That's all she's wearing.
Yeah.
And that's actually what gets her in trouble. Because it gets smeared and the Pharaoh finds out. So this is obviously an accurate historical depiction of the origin of makeup in Egyptian society.
So yeah, shout out to Safe because
we don't have our local residents.
The history of the history of everything starts in Egypt, and since our resident Egyptian isn't on the show, don't worry, Safe, still covering it for you. Even makeup got its origin start as a cosmetic beauty product in Egypt.
They weren't
those Egyptians.
They were sure that's how the movie started out. They were
they
weren't cutting any corners.
So I was doing a little research on this, T, just because, I feel like before I completely throw down and just absolutely 100% hate something, I should understand it a little better, or at least learn about it after I've decided how much I hate it. And I was looking into this a little history-wise, and makeup as a beauty product, like as a product that's being put on particularly faces of women to alter appearance, has actually had a really strange roller coaster through history of whether it was acceptable or whether it was actually shunned for being too vain, especially in religious societies, or being too selfish, and so over years and decades and centuries it seemed to go back and forth of being discouraged and then promoted, and in the end it always came back to a couple of reasons. I think you were teaching me about why makeup.
Seduction and camouflage.
Seduction and camouflage, which they can both be the same thing, right? At any given point, there's an overlap in the Venn diagram there.
Yes.
I would imagine so. But yeah, that's what I was seeing too. I was seeing that, you know, there was this notion of it being completely related to sex appeal, which is where then you start to get a little bit of the religious hate at any given point. And then the camouflage. What are we covering up? What are we trying to look like? Where do those standards of what's supposed to be beauty come from? It's
or trying to make yourself less noticeable.
Yeah, well, and that actually, I was reading about that, which I thought was really interesting. It was actually making me not hate makeup less, but making me have an interesting appreciation for it from a tool or a resource. Was when makeup was shunned, I think it was by, like, societally, it was shunned by Queen Elizabeth, I think. I can't tell you which one, because aren't they all named that?
Right.
But nonetheless, one of those queens had come out like against makeup. And so then back to some of our previous episodes, no, it was Queen Victoria. That's who it was. She declared makeup to be vulgar. And so then it was like, oh, okay, so women suddenly weren't supposed to wear it anymore, but now it's taboo and now it's a naughty thing to do. And we talked about things, as soon as you make it naughty, we want to do it. And so then women started like sneaking it, but also doing that whole, I'm going to wear it to look my natural look. Because that's what I've always been told. When women go, no, my makeup looks so natural. Well, then why are you wearing it? If you, like, what's the need if you're going for a natural look? You could just like get that without wearing it, maybe?
Yeah, I don't understand that. Yeah, I look
right.
natural.
The logic is strange.
But
that seems to be where that came from, was when it was, you know, deemed unacceptable. But then comes the money train, everybody. And I think it was the 1920s when, specifically here in like Western civilization, Western world, women started selling makeup to each other. So we are our worst enemies. I swear it, women.
Is
We're
this
the
like
first
Mary
to say,
Kay?
yeah, like that kind of stuff, right? Maybe Avon. I don't know. I'm sure Mary Kay's been around longer.
Well,
but that whole notion of women telling other women that they could look better, we're going to listen to like that peer pressure. So lame.
Right.
Yeah, like we're the worst to each other.
Well,
like,
that's
terrible.
the whole reason why they wear makeup in the first place. Oh, I do it for myself. No, you don't. Because there's some standard that you have developed based on the society and the world around you for what is to be worn and what does look good.
Well, so that's this whole thing, right? That's when marketing and advertising and those things started to become a really more mainstream, and women were making money off of each other essentially by selling this product. So you essentially have to tell each other you would be better off, you would look better if you wore this. So like we as women can immediately say, well, we have to look good because men have a standard of how we're supposed to look. Maybe, but let's just be clear. Not maybe that you need to do that. Maybe men are having some fucked up perception of what women should look like. But women are doing this to women. That is how this is happening. And so cosmetics as a product, as an advertised mark of wealth and status amongst each other. So now you were trying to keep up with each other.
Yes.
Right? Emphasizing physical features, suggesting it was where sex appeal came from. And so now it was no longer this selfish thing to do, but now advertising was persuading women to take that opposite view, that cosmetics were a necessity. So just like pantyhose, just like bras, underwear, all these things, because we can get into a whole episode about how underwear are not actually necessary. Nonetheless, point being, all that advertising created makeup as a necessity to the point where it is taught now, like just culturally, societally, that women are supposed to wear this product and put this product on to be at their best.
And I don't even understand what this stuff's made of.
Okay, well, what a great question, T, because that comes to some of the reasons why I say there are consequences to this. Like half of U.S. cosmetics, half of U.S. cosmetics contain toxic chemicals, toxic freaking chemicals. They call it the toxic 12 even of what's in these. And I know you guys, you know, if you listen to the episode about plastics and a lot of the things that, you know, were talked about of chemicals and things that are in plastics, a lot of these are in makeup as well. Only think about how absorbent that is, that you're like, at least that plastic bottle, you're not like completely eating it and swallowing it, but this is going right on your skin. Like that's crazy. That's crazy. So like formaldehyde, what? Yeah. And so it was actually individual stores like Target and CVS that had to start banning the usage of these types of chemicals in products they were willing to sell on their shelves because technically it was allowed. The European Union stopped allowing it, but not here in the United States. What? That's crazy. That's super crazy to me. All for what, though? You know, this concept of a cover-up? Yeah, less wrinkles. Don't see that pimple on my face. Don't see that, what is that thing that's on your ear, T? Give us an update on that.
Oh, my cyst. I think it's going down a little bit. It's been getting smaller.
Right? Like, you're not covering that up with makeup anyways.
No, it's not. Well, you couldn't see it. Like I said, you couldn't see it, but you could definitely feel it if you touched my ear. But it's been going down. So
on that list
I got a Saki
toxic
situation.
Yeah, you do. Shout out to Saki and her ear sitch.
Right.
So those chemicals, like formaldehyde is a known carcinogen, right? Methylene glycol, that's a formaldehyde. So mercury, right? That damages kidneys. That messes with your nervous system. Isopropyl parabens, that disrupts hormones, harms the reproductive system. So
yeah, but you're not putting it on your genitals. You're putting it on your face.
First of all, you don't know that. And second of all, it doesn't matter because this is the contaminants that are linked to cancer and all of those terrible things that mess with our genetics, right? So start to mess with our cells and our DNA. And it's in our food, it's in water, and it's in cosmetics. And so you're literally putting this in some of the most sensitive places. Your lips, super sensitive, right next to your mouth, right? Your eyes, think about it. Women are putting this in and on their eyes. And so are men these days. Stop it, everybody. Just stop it.
I never understood the lash thing. Like the whole fake lashes.
And they're gluing those on. They're gluing those on. That's crazy. It's glue. It's totally glue. Just
nothing wrong with that.
Eyes.
There's nothing wrong with putting a little glue on your face every once in a while, right?
Unless you realize that glue is made out of formaldehyde. Why do I need to put formaldehyde in my eyes to look? Because this is what I'm saying. There ain't nothing cute about eye cancer, right? There ain't nothing cute about, your face freaking falling off because you put all these chemicals on it.
But how often does that happen?
Well, so what a great question, right? So then the question is, how do you possibly link the usage of this to, all of this exposure or any of these things? And the reality is back to our unhealthy lifestyles. You just don't. So I'm really rocking a hard place up against a major cover up to be able to help people understand why they don't need to do this. But it's why I usually don't take that route, because that's a scare tactic, that notion of you're going to get cancer or it's bad for your body. I like to come back to that point of, but why do you need to cover up who you are and what you look like?
Right.
And the people that are telling you to do that, the advertising monster, let me just put it out there. Oh, even better, no T, I'm going to make you take a guess. How many billions of dollars do you think cosmetic sales generate in the United States every year, approximately?
Is this
billions.
Profits or sales?
Billions of generated in sales.
I don't know. 20?
50 billion. So $49.2 billion is generated by cosmetic sales just in the United States. Globally, $380 billion. A year spent on cosmetics. So if you break that down, the average American, this is where I get twisted. The average American spends between $244 and $313 on cosmetics every month. Every month. And I get blown shit. Yeah, I mean, it's just saying on average Americans, right? So, dang, I'm assuming.
Well, now, so what else constitutes
like a cosmetic?
Yeah.
So in general, personal care, beauty products, that's all part of the cosmetics industry. So it could be, your creams and your gels and your, who knows. But most of it is most skincare products make up 42% of the cosmetic industry. So a lot of it is skincare.
Uh-huh. Well, what's the other stuff?
I don't know. Maybe like fragrances. lotions. Who knows? God, it's all gross.
I was gonna say
beauty
there's
products
like nail clippers.
Maybe it's
count?
just a bunch of nail clippers. I could only hope, T. I could only hope. But think about that. So I get blown shit all the time for how expensive my, organ only diet must be and eating from a regenerative farm every month.
Oh, and then we got people doing this shit. It's
but
not
think about this.
any health benefit to them.
Well, and maybe like hair dye. Think about those things, like hair care products potentially, right? Those must land in there too.
Yeah.
And if you're not putting any of that stuff or doing any of that stuff to alter your appearance, I'm only altering my appearance from the inside out. I'm aging in reverse because of what I eat. And I'm going to get blown shit for my expensive diet where I'm spending a couple $100 on organs a month. And yet the average American is spending $250 to $300 a month on beauty products. Stop.
Nail polish.
Nail polish. There you go, right? We don't even know. Like, these are all those crazy things. And the industry is going to keep growing at a rate of 5.3% every year. So it ain't going to stop. Basically, I'm being told, quit trying because everyone doesn't care what you have to say and they're just going to keep altering their appearance and covering it up. What?
Why?
I'm flabbergasted and a little sad, too.
What can we do? Is it worth trying? Is there? I mean, what's the? That's what a lot of people will say. What's the harm? Why does it bother you?
I know. Well, and here's why it bothers me. Because I fundamentally believe that this comes back to our discussion about insecurities and the residual effects of insecurities on all of us. So when people are insecure, when they're afraid, when they act out of insecurity, when we lack trust in ourselves, when we don't meet our full potential as a society and as people, all of these things, are being played out in these ways. And cosmetics are one of the ways of covering that up instead of facing our fears. Cosmetics are another way of hiding instead of being ourselves and being the happy, healthy human beings that would make a better world where people aren't angry and people aren't road raging at each other. But when you start to look at this, and I'm just making this theory up on the fly right now, okay? But we have super high levels of aggressive driving, crime, anger, mental illness, just lots of health problems, right? In this country, we talk about that in general, mental health and physical health. And I'm looking at the country's spending on beauty products, like I'm looking at it by country, and we by far are the most of any country by a landslide.
Because we're superficial. I was going to say we're superficial.
But think we're superficial. But then think about all those other problems we have as a society. Mm-hmm. So these things correlate, right? What do you think? Okay, so we're at 90 billion roughly spending on beauty products by country. What, because this is all beauty products, right? So beyond just cosmetics at 50 billion, beauty products as a whole are at 90 billion. What do you think is the second country that comes in at close to 60 billion underneath us?
France.
Oh my God, what a great guess. And no, they're super low on the list.
It's because they don't have enough people. China.
Yes, exactly. Well done. China, right? So it's the United States, then China at about 60 billion, Japan at 37 billion, Brazil at 35, then you get to Germany, United Kingdom, India, France,
population,
South Korea.
China.
I know.
So you said that, 37 billion?
Well, theirs is
40,
at 60 billion.
60.
We're at 90 billion.
But
we're 30 billion more, but think of how big China is.
Yeah, they have 1 billion people.
Right? That's what's so crazy to me. And so I just think there's a huge correlation to this. And so that's where when you ask the question, who is it hurting and how's it hurting? Well, it's hurting an entire society. It's hurting our children who are growing up on social media looking at, filters that are supposed to make their skin look a particular way. And our suicide rates of our children are getting younger and younger.
Well, yeah,
why? Because of standards they can't meet.
Yeah, the makeup.
Right?
The makeups definitely can't match the filters.
Definitely not. And then think about, how we then perceive each other. And, this concept of people now meet online and that's how people date and that's how people, get to know each other. And do you really? No, everything's a cover up. Because there's nothing about us as individuals in who we are, in our skin and in our, in all our glory that anyone's super interested in. But I will tell you, they actually are. They actually are. And take the risk.
It's just
quit wearing makeup.
Yeah,
the sky won't fall.
It's about finding the right person If it's
But I'm
really
gonna
about
tell you,
beauty, if you're worried about that aspect of it.
Well, but that's what everybody says. But I really think, that whole notion of like, I wear makeup for me and that pisses us off, right?
Yes.
Because I don't think the people putting makeup on are doing it for them. They think they're doing it for everybody else because they're trying to impress everybody else. But flip that around, and everyone else, if you stopped wearing makeup, would totally be into you if you're worth being into. Like if you're not a jackass.
Yeah.
And like, that's where I'm like, just take the risk, because nobody's asking you to put that makeup on. Nobody's asking you to cover that up.
Right.
So ultimately, you're not putting makeup on for you because it makes you feel good. You're putting on makeup for you because you don't feel good. Like, that's what we have to admit. And how do we feel good? It's not by putting a Band-Aid over it. Figure out how to feel good without having to cover it up. Own who you are. And I think that's where I get asked this question, well, then is there ever an acceptable time to wear makeup? I got asked that just the other day, because as a non-makeup wearer, I piss so many people off because I immediately make people feel uncomfortable when they are wearing makeup. And it's not intentional at all. It's the like, all of a sudden they feel even more insecure because
they're like, oh my God, do I look like a clown?
Yeah, and I don't have to say a word. It's more like when somebody will say something, like I'll get accused of wearing makeup, and I'm like, no, the reason you think that I do is because I have really healthy skin, and you're never used to me, like you're used to seeing my face look like this all the time, and so you assume that I do. Because people who wear makeup and then when they don't wear makeup, there's a drastic change to their face that happens.
Yeah, that's
like, what's that like as a dude waking up next to a girl who looked different last night? Weird, right?
Yeah. Usually the makeup's just smeared all over the place at that point, so it's still can't exactly tell.
But have you ever, like, I imagine you've been in those long-term relationships where you know what a girl looks like with makeup on, and then you also know what she looks like without it. And like, that's got to be weird, right?
Yeah. The ones that I've dated usually are naturally beautiful.
Yeah.
The one that I've had ones that wear too much makeup, but they still look good without it.
Right.
And that's why
Did they think they looked good without it though?
Some did, some didn't.
Okay.
And definitely I'm more attracted to the ones that don't give a fuck.
Right. It's messy to live with somebody that wears makeup too.
Yeah.
That's my pet peeve.
There was lots of oh God, yeah, I forgot. There was lots of nails, painting of the nails. I do remember that.
And just like powders and creams of various colors just smeared everywhere.
I remember there was like a little one of those plastic totes. Every girl has a plastic tote for nail polish. It's a plastic tote, and then
bags and the powders and
then the nail polish remover is in there on its side. And then there's some files. It's just
a lot. It's just a lot.
Yeah. So nail files, I'm sure, fall into that category. Ooh, speaking of nail files, Frank needs his nails trimmed so bad.
So, and here's where we go to that category. Has everything to do with practical hygiene, not for beauty, right? Those are the differences.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I get asked that question, though. Is there ever a time where, like, since I'm so staunchly against wearing makeup, it's ever acceptable to wear it? And I'm like, well, look, I'm not trying to be an asshole. Yes, I get it that, like, for Halloween, people put on makeup. I don't want it on my skin because I'm particular, but, like, you do you. Go wear whatever makeup you want if you want to be, the Joker for Halloween. Go for it. Or, like, for pictures, or for like if you're going to be on the news or something, you see those people like wear like Hollywood makeup. That stuff's crazy. And again, I'm not here to judge whether people do or don't wear it for any circumstance. I am just suggesting it is unnecessary if you feel like you have to wear it. I'm all about the lack of cover up. You don't need to cover up.
There's this lady on our local news station that wears way too much makeup. It looks ridiculous.
Right? It looks crazy. And then you feel bad because they put that on to try to look better, And
I'm just like, you don't.
Dang.
You don't.
And maybe what's that?
I'm just saying you don't look better.
Oh, yeah, right? But maybe I'm being culturally insensitive too and missing an entire sector of like art when it comes to like a makeup artist would tell me that they're an artist.
Oh,
and that,
there's
like,
videos.
It's about
there's
art.
Videos that get hundreds of millions of views.
Yeah.
Or these people
And
just putting
again,
on their fucking makeup.
I can appreciate the artistic nature of it from people who are doing art or painting or, like faces and creating looks
I feel like
and things
the
like
majority of those videos are just commercials, though, for all the products that they're using. In
100%. But
because they're like, today I'm using the blue Arctic Chill. That sounds like a Gatorade color flavor.
That got from the Super Bowl. But no, I can appreciate, again, the artistry of a makeup artist who is capable of, making faces look bloody and scarred for special effects. And like, I can appreciate all of it. What I continue to come back to is that concept of daily putting on makeup to cover oneself up because they don't look as good without it, is their perception of themselves, is where I'm struggling. And so it's like, I don't need to get into a whole conversation about whether there's ever acceptable times to wear it. Again, I don't want it on my skin. I don't care if other people choose to put it on theirs. But why you're putting it on is all I'm saying, is what matters. And so then that's when I got asked. I was like, oh, is there ever an acceptable time? I was like, well, I feel like the only acceptable time, and then I wouldn't be putting makeup, I'd probably be using blood on my face, is going to be when I'm trying to camouflage myself to go hunting, right? Because I'm going to need some like legit face paint.
You just put a mask on there. You just put like a gator on.
Yeah, I thought about blood on my face instead, though. That seemed more legit.
I feel like
just
that
rubbing blood on my face.
Draw.
Yeah, I want them drawn in, right? Yeah, duh. And I'm trying to kill predators, right? If I'm hunting.
I don't typically think so. You don't usually hunt predators. No, it's like deer and
crap.
Birds.
All right. Well, this is a good. This is a good spoiler alert. Or I haven't even told you this. This is a teaser, maybe. I've been talking to our longtime listener, friend of the show, Dusty Drake. And Dusty and I are going to go hunting, not for predators, for elk here in several months. And I am trying to implore Dusty to come back on the show and
you're gonna
have us have a little chat
shoot
about
an animal?
I don't know, but we want to talk about it on the pod. So I'm trying to get our longtime listener Dusty Drake on the pod after we go hunting to see, one, if we were successful, and two, to tell all the trials and tribulations and stories of me going hunting for predators.
I'm definitely interested to hear about your adventures. And I just want to know more about hunting. To me is so weird. At least
we're going to do an episode on it because I'm super into it. I want to talk more about it because I fundamentally believe in the conservation nature of it and doing it responsibly, and why it's actually really, really important because of how humans have treated nature and how we've taken over. And so why I think it has an important role, but I think it should definitely be an episode we do. We'll have to do a few parts so that when Dusty and I come back,
and I know
we'll have stories.
Obviously. Yeah, I have so many questions, and I'd like to hear it from a hunter's perspective because I want to know more about, because guns are just cheating. It's not fair. You know what I'm saying? It's just stupid.
No, I hear you.
I feel like hunting, if you really want to hunt and you want to outwit this animal, you can do it with a bow and arrow or a crossbow. Right. You can still have a projectile. It just doesn't need to be. Guns are just so destructive.
Sure, and they don't have to be. A slower bullet isn't nearly as destructive as a faster one. And, obviously sizes of shells and things matter. But, we should cover all of that. And just throwing it out there, the most legit, hardest core type of hunting, even beyond bow and arrow, totally being a trapper. Go try to trap an animal. That? Oh, exactly. Good luck. We should all go try to trap a beaver one of these days.
I feel like a spear would be pretty hard.
Yeah, but trapping, I'm saying, trying to get an animal to step right where you want them to is harder than it looks.
Right. Yes. I was going to just say, you could just dig a deep enough hole or big enough hole and cover it up.
They ain't that dumb. It's crazy. And trapping the animal you're trying to trap is also... Right? We used to trap cats down in the hood, and every time we would catch our freaking neighbor's chihuahua.
God damn chihuahuas.
Damn it.
Well, there's so many of these goddamn fucking chihuahuas just wandering around down there.
Oh, I know,
I almost
right?
picked one up at one point. Just for the hell of it.
Oh, it's ridiculous. So that's my own. So if we're coming back to cover-ups, my favorite type of cover-up has to be camouflage for that purpose. But yes, Dusty Drake and I are going to come back. So here's the one thing that I have to start working on. I've got a decent amount of months because this probably isn't until August, but I've got several months to work on being quiet.
Yes.
Because it's been a very long time since I've gone out in the woods for any reason to be tracking or hunting animals.
Yeah.
And you got to be quiet.
I've never done that.
Wow.
So, yeah, you got to shut up.
I know.
I wouldn't be able to do that.
Both you and I wouldn't.
No, we'd be terrible hunters.
We would be the worst hunters ever.
We'd just be walking around in the woods with orange on, just talking a bunch of shit, pissing off all the other hunters. They'd probably love us because we drive all the animals towards them.
Totally. The more we talk, the louder we get because we're getting pissed off about something.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So that is coming up. So in the future, listeners, get ready, right? You too could be like Dusty Drake if you wanted to come be on an episode.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You got to work on that.
Heck yeah, totally. So it's a coming. It's a coming. But that's, I guess, if I'm going to suggest the only type of cover up that I'm down with is a good old camouflage out in the woods. Best I got.
Yeah, I'm obviously out on makeup.
Yeah,
and
me too. That's our verdict.
Right. And before we wrap up this episode, obviously feel free to give us your feedback, your comments, what you think of, or what your, I'm going to say excuse for wearing makeup is. Yeah, I'm going to go there. You may comment on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, any social media by searching for the Catch the Sky podcast, on Twitter at CTS Terry. You may find Dick on Twitter at I'm Dick Francisco, or on Instagram at the Dick Francisco. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, and keep up with our weekly shenanigans. And before we wrap this up, I feel like I only got one government cover-up in, and
oh my god, yeah, more of those, please.
Nah, just a couple, because people who are obviously intelligent can do their own research and don't need me to regurgitate a bunch of shit to them. But I did like the polio vaccine one. I did think that was topical,
right?
But also staying in the health universe as it pertains to our conversation this evening. I made one comment about receiving $10 million, but that's if you were a victim, or let's say patient, in the Tuskegee study of untreated syphilis in the Negro male. Right?
Very specific. Okay.
And I'm citing the title of the study. I'm not trying to be insensitive by using this terminology or anything like that.
Right.
And that was, again, an experiment run by the fucking government on 600 black men. And 2/3 of them with the disease and 1/3 without. And they said that they would receive treatment, and they didn't. And it was supposed to go on for 6 months. It went on for like 40 fucking years. It's like, you better be paying millies after that. That's fucking, you just took somebody's life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then when penicillin was available, didn't give them fucking penicillin. Like, to treat it. That's the worst part. That's the fucking, to me, that's the worst part, is like, all right, your fucking experiment's over now. Just quit being assholes.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I'm not cool if people are experimented on against, like, them knowing about it. But like, when I see on the TV, like, call if you want to be part of a medical trial, like, that's on you if you call that number and say yes.
Right.
You know?
Yes.
But like the stuff when you didn't know, that's terrible.
Like that, and MK Ultra, which was the U.S. government name for their experiment with psychedelics on crazy people, addicts, and things like that. So this This is not just psychedelics, but sensory deprivation, hypnosis, isolation, torture, all that fun stuff. The CIA
Uh-huh.
Scientific Research Division ran that in the, what was it, the 60s, 70s?
I think MK Ultra would have been in, because that was LSD time. Maybe had to
60s,
be
70s.
Had to be, yeah, because I don't think it was known about until the 70s.
Well, this is when they
So
started.
I think it was like 60s. I think it was in the late 60s.
This is when they started coming to public light.
Yes, because like the cover up happened, and
Yeah.
then we've learned about it in
Yes.
the 70s.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I recall.
Yeah.
Not that I was alive, but that's what I recall.
So, yeah. And we could go on and on. We could go into the first Gulf War, the testimony given by the Kuwait, the Kuwaiti diplomat to the U.S. Their daughter somehow just is a perfect stand-in for any girl from Kuwait. You know what I'm saying? They just gave her this doctored script, and they're like, here we go. Let's just march up this little Middle East girl. And at that time, in the early 90s, anybody's going to buy anything, apparently. And so they went to war over that. And then it's crazy because his son stormed into the Middle East, George Bush.
Oh, yes.
Decades later, after another cover-up with 9/11, which has yet to be confirmed, but just wait.
And as you kind of bring up these cover-ups that are so prevalent when it comes to war, you know me, when I come, I can't help but bring on the health and wellness component of it, that all of these, including the Iraq War, all have some element of cover-up related to the health and detriment to the health of our soldiers that fought in these wars as well. So everything from, Agent Orange and some of the cover-ups that took place way back in the day.
The burn pits and all that fun stuff that's going on now.
But Gulf War syndrome is one of the greatest, in my opinion, greatest meaning worst of the Pentagon CIA cover-ups. So when it comes to the Gulf War syndrome, and it's an actual thing, they call it GWS or they call it Gulf War illness, and it's a multi-symptom disorder. And it was, they believe that it may have been from low levels of sarin that were being released during the Gulf War that soldiers were getting exposed to. And more soldiers were coming back with like gastrointestinal issues. And same thing's happening in the Iraq War too. I can attest to that as well. That
it's a lot of it's these burn pits. They just burn everything. They just literally.
And they're having GI issues though, and they're having, so it's not just mental health stuff, but it's actual like physical realities. And it was actually the VA and the Department of Defense that have made it so difficult for soldiers they won't diagnose GWI or GWS anymore because they don't want to have to pay out for it. And so it has been so difficult for soldiers to actually get diagnosed with it.
Jon
Stewart
talked about this on his.
Yeah.
I think it was the first episode he did of his new show on Apple TV.
I have not seen it, but I'm glad someone's talking about it because it's a big, big deal. I've listened to a few podcasts about it too of, some of these soldiers that have come back as veterans that are just fighting the good fight for it because the typical, and I can relate to this. You guys have heard my episode on endometriosis where all of the symptoms of it are the basic symptoms of just being a woman. Well, the same thing is happening with Gulf War syndrome.
Yeah.
As it's just, you have IBS or, you just have the same thing that every American with a bad diet has. And these guys are going, no, this didn't happen until I was over there. It started to happen while I was over there. And now I need, help. And they aren't being given help for it.
Yep. And Agent Orange,
government
I'm glad that you brought that up because that's obviously Vietnam, which also started as the result. Our involvement started as the result of a confirmed government cover-up. Research the Gulf of Tonkin.
Right? So basically what we're trying to say here is quit wearing makeup because you can choose not to have your own cover-up, because think about all the cover-ups that are out there.
Start living a truth, you motherfucker.
You don't want to be
your
the
truth.
same category. Live your truth. You don't want to be in the same category as Agent Orange.
Or the Gulf of Tonkin.
And cancer polio shots.
Or 9/11.
9/11. You don't want to be part of that.
You don't want to be like 9/11.
You don't need to be like that.
It's
So
terrible.
quit wearing makeup,
You're better
everybody.
than 9/11.
You're better than 9/11. T, I think we just helped the people. We got there.
There we go. That's. I think that's what
it.
you referred to as a scare tactic. But
Yep, I may have, but you know what? Desperate times call for desperate measures. You're better than 9/11, everybody. Quit wearing makeup. Boom.
Boom.
Is that too soon to say boom after that?
No.
I'm not sure.
Jesus.
Oh, okay.
That's
Well, on that note, if anybody has any better advice, let us know because we're struggling.
I think that's a perfect place to end. Thank you
I
for
think
joining
it is
us.
indeed.
And until next week, keep trying to catch the sky.
Bye, everybody.